Hello, this webinar is part of a Snack and Learn webinar to share knowledge. The subject is circular economy in the cities, the reuse of soil. My name is Pernille Kjærsgaard. I'm working as a market director in WSP in contaminated soil and groundwater. Before we start, I will point out that it's possible to download the presentation in the handout box. In the end of the session, it will be possible to ask questions. The questions should be typed in the question box. The agenda for this webinar is first, I will talk about the Danish regulation, then the issues on handling soil. In the presentation, I will go through 3 cases with noise barrier where WSP have participated. Then there will be pitfalls and lesson learned, and in the end, wrap-ups and conclusions. All over the world, there is an urbanization. Due to the lack of empty spaces, we build closer to highways. As shown on this map, which is from 1973, and this map is from 2022. This is the highway, and this is the same highway. And as you can see, in 1973, there's no houses here, there's no houses here, and there's not many houses here. And if you look at here, then it's crowded and it's filled with residents very close to the highway. This is the traffic development in this area, and as you can see in the last 20 years, then it's doubled up with traffic. In Denmark, the accepted limit for residents is 58 dB. The roads are safer and they are better built. The cars can move faster and they are more safe. And close to that, we have increased the velocity on the roads, and therefore the tires give more noise to the surroundings. According to the World Health Organization WHO, the traffic noise can cause discomfort and health effects such as communication difficulties, headaches, difficulty in sleeping, stress, increase of blood pressure, increased risk of heart diseases and hormonal influences. Also, the noise can lower the children's performance and the children's learning and motivation. Therefore, it's important to make an effort to lower the traffic noise. In Denmark, we are running out of places to deposit construction soil. So the price for deposit soil are high, almost 18 euro per 0.14 euro per tons. The government is about to build an area called Lynetteholmen, which is a new area for soil. But until Lynetteholmen is a reality, there's a great need for area to deposit soil. Due to Danish regulation, it is possible to take money for receiving soil without paying charges if the project can support a public problem like traffic noise. Very often the developer or the municipality use the money to give nature and activities, facilities for the community back to the community. In Denmark, the soil must be considered non-polluted before entering the barrier, and you test the soil before it can go into the barrier. The first case I will present is a noise barrier in a town called Ishøj, and the client here is Ishøj municipality. The landscaper is Pernille Kjærsgaard, and the company who have done the noise calculation is Svego. And here you can see the highway, and this is all the existing residents, and this is the area where we are building the new barrier. This is how it looked before we started, and this is how it looked in that part of the barrier where the barrier where we are finished. And as you can see, then the steepness give a good variety in the nature. At this barrier, it's located south of Copenhagen in a city called Ishøj. We have deposited 350,000 cubic meter of soil. It's 12 meter high, and the reducing of the noise is 3 to 5 dB, and some places up to 7 dB. And the noise reduction you can see here. And before we started on the project, then there was a community meeting, and in the beginning we put people up in a lift until 12 meters. That is the height of the barrier, and then it was very clear what the inside would be and what the height would be. And it was a really efficient way to show people how the barrier would look in the area. After that, there was a public meeting, and over 400 people attended and have good ideas of what they could wish for the barrier in their community. The WSP services provided in this case was technical design for the barrier and surrounding area, the geotechnical stability, the drainage of the barrier, the environmental licensing and permitting, the 3D modeling, and the community and the stakeholder engagement. And here you see the traffic, you see the noise going out, and it's bending against the noise barrier. And the circular economic in this case was good because you use reuse soil from other construction sites instead of raw materials. And this is a picture on how it looked during the construction. And this is the WSP and the contractor planning how to make the temporary access road. And it's very important to make the access road away from the resident, because every hour there will be about 50 to 60 vans going to and from the area to deliver the soil. And if that is done directly into the residents, then it will not be a very popular issue. So at all the cases, we have made the roads where the vans are going to and from away from the residents. It's also a better way to use the soil, because you take the construction soil. Normally you put them in a temporary place, and after that you put it in the ending place. But here you take it directly from the construction site into this noise barrier. So it's a good way to reuse soil. And this is the part of the barrier that is finished. And on the inside, it's filled with the species that are native and blended. So there's a lot of different kind of species, and therefore a high diversity. And there's no noise on the inside, and you have the paths where you can go, and then you go on the top and just on the outside, and you can see the highway and the steep slope down to the highway. And here you can see the drainage of the barrier. And the landscaper had thought that we make a path on the outside, and we didn't think that they would use it that much, but it's actually an experience to go and look at the cars and have this noise around your head, and then you feel like isolated in another way. And the barrier here, the landscaper have made different kind of nature. So here there's trees, and it's kind of a forest. And here we have this nutrition poor soil, and therefore one kind of nature. And here there's more wet soil, and therefore another kind of nature. And the second case is Tværhøjgård, and it's located south of Copenhagen in Greve. And it's not built yet, but there's planned to be deposited 350,000 cubic meter of soil. And the developer here had planned a lot of activities for the residents. It's 20 meter high, and it's reducing the noise by 5 to 7 dB. And this is how it looks today. And the reason why there's some soil is because we have already asked the developer around if they don't want to put the soil here, so they don't have to drive it very fast. And this is the highway. This is the existing residence. And this is where the developer wants to build houses. And this is where we are going to build the barrier. And the developer and the client is Casa Nord, and they are the owner and the builder. Then the landscaper is Upland. The local planner is LE34, and the noise calculator are Sweco. And the services WSP have provided in this case is the technical design for the barrier and the surrounding area, the geotechnical stability, the drainage of the barrier, the environmental licensing and permitting, the 3D modeling, and the community and stakeholder engagement. And on this picture, you can see, like in the last case, that the landscaper also have made various of nature. So on the top there's trees, so it would be kind of a forest. Then here would be shadow places with trees around. And there's also this nutrition poor soil with one kind of plants and nature. And then there would be topsoil with another kind of nature. And here you can see the calculation of the noise. And on this, there's no barrier. And here, the green, that's where the limit on 58 dB is okay. And you can see that you can't build houses here. And on this side, the barrier is built, and you can see that you can build residents in all this area. So it has a good effect for the traffic noise. This slide is to show you the ideas of what the client and the landscaper wants to implement in the noise barrier in order to increase the well-being and the biodiversity. And to point out some of the most exciting is this slope that they have planned, and it goes from the top to the bottom. So it's 20 meters in height. Also, the erosion gap is a very nice area, both for the insects and the plants and for people to look at. And it's also from the top to the bottom, and then the rainwater will go down. And as you can see, there's all kind of nature and open spaces, closed spaces, and trees and in different heights. So the landscaper have really done a lot to increase the biodiversity. And also you can see the fitness places for the communion to use. And this site should be open both for the residents and for the communion. The trees that is planning to be planted, they also have, so the bird can make their nests. There will be different kind of plants for the bees, so there will be a lot of pollen. And for the birds to have some food, there will be berry and fruit trees. The seed mixture that is going to be used is a seed mixture that is collected from native species all over Denmark and then mixed, so we are sure to have a lot of diversity. And then you mix the soil, so sometimes you use nutrition poor soil and sometimes you use topsoil. And then you have, then it's different kind of plants that will survive. And in this case, there's also some protected nature. So in these 4 wet area that has been discovered smooth newt and great crested newt. And in order to protect them, then during the construction period, we make a Fabian fence. And that's so you make sure that the newt doesn't go into the places where the construction machine and the soil is deposited, so they are getting peace behind the fence. And then the client, in this case, he have he will make those wet area better. This is not a very good area for newt, but he will make it more open, and he will make it less steep. So he will increase the good nature for the newt. And when you have these wet area, then it's important that you doesn't cut their way to the wet area other places in the community. And therefore, we have done the drainage of the barrier as a wet alley around the barrier. So the newt can walk around and go over to the wet area. And furthermore, then the rainwater management will be done in open magazine. So this will also give a good place for animals in this, insects and birds in this area. And the rainwater will go through a pipe and into a steam and out to the ocean. And here has the landscaper painted some pictures on how it would look when it's finished. And here you can see that outside to the highway, it's steep, and on the inside it's slopey, and there's more activities on this side. And this picture, you can see the different kind of nature, where it's open and sometimes it's closed, and different kind of plants, so the biodiversity will increase. The third case is established in south of Copenhagen in Høje Taastrup, and it's called Røgelgrøften. They have made the noise barrier as a nature park, almost 100 square meter. They have deposited 230,000 cubic meter of soil. There's 3 lakes in the nature park, and they are done to the rainwater management, and the noise barrier is 14 meter high. And the client is Høje Taastrup municipality, and it's very near where the office of WSP is sited. And the Høje Taastrup municipality has also done the landscaping by themselves, and they have also decided which plant and how to make the area look. That's themselves who have done it. And the services that WSP have provided in this case is the technical design for the barrier and the surrounding area, the geotechnical stability, the drainage of the barrier, the environmental licensing and permitting, the 3D modeling, and then the community and the stakeholder engagement we have participated in. And the nature park is here, and then the highness of the barrier is out here. And this is the residence that is located here. And this is how the nature park look. And there's this big playground, and there's many bicycle paths and path to walk the dog and play in this playground. So it's a really good area that is very used. And you can see the nature park here, and this is the highway. And this picture is so good because on the outside you can see the steep noise barrier, you can see the highway, and you can imagine that this is a noise area. Then you go on the inside and you have this beautiful silent area. And the lesson learned when building those soil barrier, it is that it's very important to involve the surrounding community, because it is a big change, and the community has a lot of ideas. So it's important that you hear their ideas and they are informed what is going to happen in the area. Then it's very important that the roads where the vans goes to and from to deposit the soil, they are not right next to the residential place. The further away you can get them, the better. Then another quality that is important is patience, because from the time that you start the project until you get the permissions, it goes about 2 years. Then it goes about 2 to 3 years to build the noise barrier, and then it takes 1 to 2 years to make the plants go. And then if you want trees on the top, it takes from 15 to 13 years, depending on how high the tree should be. The technical stability of the barrier can be a challenge because you want to build the barrier as steep as possible, both because then it's more efficient towards noise and also because then you don't have to use as much space towards the highway, that the steeper, the narrower it can get. But if you make it very steep, then you are almost certain to get those slides where the soil go down the barrier, and it's not very good. Especially if people are walking on the path, so you have to make it very stable. And then when you put all these cubic meter of soil on top of an existing area, it's very important that you examine the existing area for existing nature, and you take care of the nature you find. And the conclusions are that the barriers built out of soil are efficient towards traffic noise reduction. And the residents use the barriers for recreate purpose, and they like them because you get this high, you go high up the top, and it gives an experience that is really good quality. Then the barrier provides good value for the nature, and they get better and better the older the barrier gets. The well-being is increasing, both because the people who live nearby get a more silent surrounding, and also because you have all these activities like campfires and slides and playgrounds where you can go to. The noise reduction will be up to 7 dB, and the circular economy is good because you reuse soil instead of using raw materials, and then you put the soil directly from the construction out into the barrier. New recreated area. And then I will take questions, and you can see my contact details here.
Thank you, Pernille, for a fantastic presentation. So just mentioning the housekeeping items again, the presentation is available to download in the handout box on the GoToWebinar platform, and also you can ask questions in the question box on the GoToWebinar platform. I will start with the first question. What are the biggest obstacles today for starting more noise reduction projects using excess soil?
The biggest issues is that there's not enough space. Normally there's from the highway until the residence, there are very narrow spaces, and for every 1 meter height you have on the barrier, then there will be about 4 meters in the bottom. So very quickly you have a very wide scale on the bottom. So very often there's not enough space, and if you build it further in, then you have to build them very high because they're more efficient, as close to the noise as you can get.
Thank you. The next question is, how quickly can you plant after establishing the barrier?
You have to wait about half, that depending on if you are finished in the spring and the fall, but normally you have to wait a year until you can plant. So very often we plant within a year. We put these species so it keeps the soil together, and then when we have waited 1 year, then we start to plant the other things, those that take a little bit more time to establish. And that's because the species hold the soil together, so when it's rained, you don't get those slides of soil.
Thank you. We have a question here from the UK. Can you provide a little more detail on permitting requirements? It would be interesting to compare with the UK approach.
Yeah. When you are applying for permits to build these barriers, then the drainage is very important, because when you build a steep barrier, then you put rainwater, extra rainwater to the surroundings. And one of the big issues is that you manage this rainwater so you don't get flood into neighbors. Then there's also the inside, there's the shadow. The barrier can give some shadow to those people who live nearby to their gardens. Then you have to do some geotechnical investigations so it won't collapse and give any danger to the highway or to the nearby barriers. Then you have to be very specific with what kind of soil you use. You have to make for every soil you put into the barrier, you have to tell the municipality what is the history of the soil, where does it come from, and what are the test samples for the soil, which kind of pollution, and is there any garbage or deposit in it. There mustn't be any bricks or something like that. It should be clean. Then you make an investigation for the groundwater underneath, and you see if you put soil, what does it do to the groundwater underneath, and how does it affect any drainage in the surrounding. Then you have to be very specific on how you put the soil into the barrier. So in which way would you make the vans go to and forth? There's you have to be specific about how you lock the area so people can't go into the area. You have to be specific about if you put the soil into the barrier, normally there's no problem. But if you have a long period, that's not very often in Denmark, but we do have sometimes with sunshine and no rain, then the dust start to build up, and you get problems for the surroundings. And then you have to, in this permits, then you have to show that you have watering, so you have these cars, you can put water on top of the barriers, so you decrease the annoying for the surroundings. And that, I think, the most that's the things that are most important. Then you have to do other things also.
Thank you for clarifying this. I will ask the last question just due to the time. Is there a limit of how high a barrier can be?
No, there isn't. But I have never seen the one that we built in Greve. That's the biggest I have seen. So 20 meters is a lot. Normally, if you build it higher, then you make some variations. So sometimes you get it a bit lower and a bit higher. But I think that you will see in the future even higher barriers. But 20 meters, that's a lot. So I think that's the highest I have seen being built.
Fantastic, thank you. Amazing experience from Denmark. Thank you very much, Pernille, for your presentation. So thank you everyone for joining today. Please feel free to follow up directly with Pernille via the contact details shown on the screen. And again, thank you for your time, everyone. I will wrap up the webinar now. Thank you.